My name is Charlie Kuenzel. I'm acting president here at the Saratoga Springs History Museum, and I want to welcome everybody here to our annual meeting and our induction into the very well-respected History Hall of Fame that we'll be doing at the end of our program. By bylaws set forth by our group, it's important for us to have an open annual meeting every year where we kind of give a state of the state talk, and we don't go into a lot of detail on this, but we want to try to update everybody on things. And of course, in the audience tonight, we've got quite a few of our board members. And if I could just ask the board members to signify, if I read your name, where you're sitting or stand up or whatever. Corinne Scirocco, of course. There's Corinne. Abigail Crotty, I believe, is right over there. Kyle Hughes is helping out with our filming. Lee Hornbeck is right back there. And let's see, Maddie Zanetti. Carol Daggs, right there. We'll move up. Tom Burns, who's our chair, you'll be hearing a report from him in just a few minutes. And Eric Morser is right here. I don't believe I've missed anybody. So I thank all the board members for attending. I did get a couple calls from people who were having travel problems and things. So being a teacher of 36 years, I gave them an excuse. So yeah, we'll let that go. As I call the meeting to order tonight, the first thing is that I asked for a treasurer's report immediately. So Tom, could you come up and tell us the state of the state from a money point of view?
Good evening, everyone. And I'm, as Charlie just said, I'm Tom Burns. I'm a trustee and the treasurer of the Saratoga History Museum. But more importantly, I'm a tour guide here, a volunteer tour guide. And I just want to share something with you as we sit here tonight, is that I have the privilege of guiding people into this room that we're sitting in and watching the visitors' faces who see this room for the very first time and hearing, wow, wow. So we all sometimes forget what a beautiful, beautiful building we have here and a beautiful museum, and I just wanted to remind you of that. But tonight, I'm here to speak to you about the financial health of our town's museum. I am pleased to say we're doing good. Now, what's good mean? Well, good is raising enough money to support the salaries of our staff and to keep our exhibits fresh and interesting. And great is when we have excess funds so that we can build a surplus in the event that we can invest into new products and we can invest into new exhibits. And we can withstand a closing as we did in March 2020 when COVID hit. Revenue for the first 9 months of the year has been $113,000. We're on track to bring in $150,000, which will be a break-even year for us. We have three bright spots that I want to point out to everyone. First of all, visitors. This year, thus far, we've had over 1,000 visitors, more than we had last year. That's a lot of people when you're a tour guide in the morning, where we're getting probably 30 and 40 people a day still, and the leaves are gone, and the summer, and the track is closed, and 30 and 40 people come in here each and every day. We have museum shop sales have doubled over last year. And if you have not purchased one of our new 1,000-piece puzzles or our new Saratoga trivia game, I'll be here a few minutes after the presentations tonight, and I'll be glad to sell you one. And if you're thinking of something to buy for Christmas as gifts for people, especially those people who have everything in Saratoga, we have the gift for them. And Jamie will be talking about one of the new items that he and Charlie have been working on. And last, membership. I just had somebody renew tonight. I had somebody renew this afternoon. We have gone from 150 members to 300 members this year, just in this year. So that's terrific. If we don't have that membership, we lose the backbone of the financial support that we need to keep this place alive. So be very proud of the museum. Be very proud of this building. Thank you for all you're doing. And again, if there's any questions or specific questions, I'll be around throughout the presentation and afterwards. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Tom. I'll give a president's report later, and Jamie will give the state of the state as our executive director. But we're very impressed with the numbers, as you can well imagine. Next on our list for tonight, because it's an abbreviated schedule, is I'll ask our executive director, Jamie Parillo, to come forward and give your director's report.
Thanks, Charlie. All right, well, good evening, everybody. If you'd asked me in the year 2020, when we shut the doors of the museum, what would we be doing in 2 years? You know, I really didn't know what to say. One thing I thought about in my head was, well, we'll be lucky to be around in 2 years, because we didn't know what was going to happen when the pandemic started. What we learned over the past 2 years, actually we learned a great deal over this time, not just about resiliency, but also about if you're not afraid to try new things, you're going to succeed. And we succeeded beyond our expectations. We've worked extremely hard and it paid off. Museum attendance, as Tom just said, hit another record this year. Programs have been very well attended and our shop sales skyrocketed. I'm attributing all this to the willingness to be flexible. Last fall, we launched the Saratoga Springs Trivia Game. It sold out well before year's end. We published a second edition this year, which will be available during this holiday season. We've tried new fundraising events, including a murder mystery dinner. It attracted 150 people. It was supposed to be at the end of last year, but because of a COVID outbreak, it was postponed. And we ended up having it this past spring. But all the attendees were treated to a heck of a good show and a fantastic dinner. We've been working for 2 years now on a new project. Tom alluded to it, and it's an idea that Maddie Zanetti had, and Charlie, Maddie, Larry Ambrosino have been working on this, and it's going to be called Murder in the Canfield Casino. It's basically a clue game, which is all about murder in this building. And I happen to have the prototype. We don't have the actuals yet. This is the actual game, and if you want to play it, you'll be playing Clue, and it's just all about trying to figure out if Richard Canfield, John Morrissey, George Crumb, Lillian Russell, Ellen Hardin Walworth, or Madame Jamel, one of those 6 people killed somebody in this room. And they did it with in the building, I can't tell you which room. And they did it with one of the weapons, or a weapon that was taken right from our collection here at the museum. So it's definitely a unique product, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And our holiday gala is actually going to spin right off and around that. And that'll be on December 8th. For exhibits, our 2022 exhibit opened in May, and it was 200 years of women's footwear. Few people knew that we have over 100 pairs of footwear, men and women's, in our costume collection. But we chose the 60 best pairs that we have to exhibit, and it's going to be up until the end of December. So if you are interested in that and you want to see it, it'll be up soon, or it'll be there for a couple more months. We're replacing it with a history of Native Americans of the Saratoga area. Much of our local history and lore is about Native Americans and their connection to the mineral springs, High Rock Spring and Saratoga Lake. We really haven't told a full story of the Native Americans for years, and this is going to explore histories of the Mohawk, the Mohican, and the Abenaki, and confirm that some of the things that we talk about them in our city's history, we're either going to say, yeah, these are really accurate, or we're going to dispel some myths that might be there. And we're working with our partners at the Andakina Education Center up in Greenfield, representatives of the Mohawk and Mohican tribes. So we want to make sure that we do it right when we do this exhibition. It'll open in May of next year, and it's planned for a 2-year run. This past year, even though we struggled coming out of a pandemic, we were succeeding, and because of the help of a generous donor, we were able to expand our staff. We hired Scott Schrake to be our PR representative and our PR executive, and also a social media expert. He's doing a very good job. Scott works remotely generally. He works part-time, but I'm attributing a lot of what our success is to increase numbers to the hard work that he's done in advertising for us. I wanted to say thank you, Scott, but Scott's not here. Yeah, I know, Scott's not here tonight. It's actually his birthday, so he's at another museum or he's visiting Plymouth Plantation, so I gave him a pass on that. One thing that Scott really helped me with was launching the website historicsaratoga.photos.com. It's the online way to look at the bolster collection, so it is up online now. And it was a project that we've been working on for a number of years. I just personally didn't have the time to get it completed, and he took it off my plate, and he did a great job with it. And on a daily basis, we're uploading more and more images from the bolster collection and also our archive into that as well. We're going to continue our growth into 2023. We just received a grant from the Museum Association of New York to partially fund an educator to come on board next year. It's a part-time position, and this person is going to help with our current educational programming, but also our desire is to expand so we have more off-site school programs where we go right to the schools, especially the ones outside of Saratoga Springs City School District that don't have the funds to bus students here. So it's a good way to improve our outreach, and also it's another revenue stream for the museum. Now, I'm the face of the organization, I run the place, but I don't work the museum per se on a regular basis. I'm not at the cash register, I'm not the person as a docent like Tom said. On a personal note, I can't thank enough all of our dedicated volunteers that work in the gift shop. We have Barbara, Peter, Dave Wilder, Carol Blowers, Joyce Brown, John Connors, Lou Elia, Tom Burns, Judy Mahar, Stephanie Zabala, Corrine Scirocco, Kathy Crandall, Bill Derby, and Diane Helwig. They are the face of the organization, and what I love is that when I look at one of our TripAdvisor reviews, I can see somebody say, Tom was a fantastic tour guide, or it was an amazing building, and it tells me that they're doing a good job. So I want to thank them, acknowledge them all for really working hard at that. I also want to acknowledge our staff. Still a small staff. I'm the only full-time person. We have Scott as our my part-time assistant, Michael Levinson, our curator, and Jan Powers, who runs our gift shop. And without all their help, we would not be succeeding. Everybody has in their job description that one nice little line. I've got it in mine too, and it says other duties as assigned. Nobody argues. We all take turns with every task that has to be done at the museum, and I want to thank them all for that too. Also want to thank the board for their help, but especially I want to thank our president, Charlie Kuenzel. Charlie works at the museum with me every single day. He does tours, he works on developing partnerships in the community, business development, fundraising, you name it, and Charlie does it. It's a pleasure to work alongside him. Sometimes I almost think that we think alike now because we're together all the time, but it's fantastic. So it's in the head of when you're working for a nonprofit, if your executive director and your president are not entwined, things don't work well. I attribute a lot of our success to both of our willingness to work together. So thank you, Charlie. So the last thing I'm going to end with, and I will end with this at all the programs, if you're not a member, see Tom. Tom loves to take people's money. Correct, Tom? Yes. So, but he'll be at the membership table at the end of the program. So with that, I just want to say thank you very much, everyone, and I'll turn the podium back over to Charlie Kuenzel.
We do think a lot alike, so it's an absolute pleasure to work with you. As far as what I'm going to talk about tonight, it's more in summation of what Jamie has just said. I'll start with just the year 2022, and just think about that for a second. It's been a very interesting year from a lot of different perspectives in Saratoga Springs. We just came off a very aggressive summer. If you talk to any of the retail people in town, and people with Discover and a couple other with the Chamber, etc., everybody will tell you the same thing. We're all tired. We all worked real hard, and we worked really hard here. We had record numbers. Tom said that we are on track to be 1,000 over last year. Well, last year was the greatest number of visitors to the museum since 1883. So we're doing very well. But this year was an extremely aggressive summer. And last year I stood up here at the same event, but at just a different time, obviously. And the main thought of my speech at that time was, how did we survive COVID? And we really did work very hard. I remember I would wake up every morning during those times. I had two people on speed dial. One was Jamie, the other was Tom. And Jamie and I would talk, and then I would call Tom and say, how many days can we last? If we liquidate stock, how long? You know, can we last till May? Can we last till June? And things kind of worked out. We put our heads together and we collaborated. And as a result, last year's report was how we came through. Today's report, as you probably have a flavor for it already, is how we're growing and how we flourished. And that, I think, is the key word for this year. The reports you've heard already give you a pretty good idea of how well we're doing, not only with Jamie's description as narrative, but also Tom's money numbers. But again, I'm just going to hit on just a few things. I'll be very brief. These are the things that mean a lot to me. When I look back and I look at what we've done and everything, I also look at where I want to be or where we want to be. And I always kind of focus on what are the key parts. Everything's got components. And without question, what we've described to you tonight does not happen in a vacuum. It does not just happen. It's because there was a lot of planning and hard work. And Jamie did a wonderful job of talking about our volunteers and everything else. But I'll start talking tonight about, first and foremost in my mind, it's membership. And Tom was right. We went from 150 to 300. We're going to climb higher. Membership is everything. We tell the story of Saratoga better than anybody else, and we've been doing it since 1883. We intend on keeping doing that. And in order to do that, we need support in the community. So if you're not an active member or if not a member at all, please go see Tom at some point or stop in and see anybody else that can handle that for you when you're here. Membership is everything. So those of you that are active members and things, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Without the membership, we wouldn't be a real good organization. The other one, of course, and Jamie touched on this, is staff and volunteers. I've worked with a lot of different groups in town. There is a tremendous dip in volunteerism in Saratoga. It's unbelievable. I've been out giving talks in different civic groups, trying to bring a lot together. If you know anybody that's sitting home and saying, gee, I don't know what to do, say to them, hey, guess what? The History Museum needs volunteers. And we'll take them in any form or fashion, whatever they like. We'll train them. We'll give them whatever job they prefer. But volunteers are a key thing. If you sit down and do the economic model on this, if you take a look at how many volunteers we have, and Jamie read it off, and then you put a dollar figure to it, and then you do the math, all of a sudden you realize that's not sustainable. Without volunteerism, all the nonprofits in town would blow away. They couldn't exist. And we talk almost weekly. I try to talk to almost every president in the community for nonprofits every week, and they all feel the same thing, and we're worried. So if you have any ideas, if you have any people that you can send our way, that would be greatly appreciated. I enjoy working with Jamie and the rest of the staff here. Jamie and I really do work very closely together, and we've come up with a lot of good ideas from board members. So both staff and volunteers are great. Jamie kind of tipped off something. On November 5th, we're going to have our annual retreat for the board. And board members that are sitting here, I think you've already figured out one of the items on the agenda will be to grow our staff. So we'll be formally bringing that up and asking for a vote before we actually go hire somebody, won't we? So we'll do that. The other thing that's really key to me in all this is collaborations. If you look around Saratoga right now, there's been a lot of very big success stories among nonprofits. And the movement of museums and new facilities are being built and all these kind of things. It's all about collaborations. And we're collaborating with people on a regular basis. Now, next Wednesday, we'll be doing a trolley ghost tour that we're doing a collaboration with the Visitor Center, which is part of Discover Saratoga. That'll be the 5th one that we've done. Now, we probably could have done 50 of them, but we ran out of time, and we had more people having interest than we had availability of trolleys and other things. That collaboration has worked, and we look to have it work again next year and in different fashions. We're working with the Racing Museum. We just had a business meeting with them recently, and we're looking at new ways in which to partner on different things. So that's the nature of it. The idea of it starts with our membership. We get the volunteers and the staff to carry out the mission, and then the collaborations give us strength to move forward. And then we have our fundraising efforts. Jamie has done a wonderful job with Murder in the Canfield Casino. This, I think, is going to be a phenomenal hit. We expect to roll that out, and there'll be more media on that, but I expect to roll that out like December 1st-ish, something like that. And of course, like he said, we've got a big, really good-looking fundraiser on the 8th. It's a Thursday night, but everybody tells me Thursday's the new Friday, so everybody will be here. We'll all love it, but that's going to be a fun time, and hopefully you'll support us with that. But here's my wrap-up. You can't have all this happen in a vacuum, like I said. Everybody and all the components I just mentioned are so important. But there's got to be a key word that gets us forward. Last year I told you just follow with us and walk with us, the best is yet to come. Well, I'll just spin that a little differently. The outlook that we've got to have for next year is that it's going to be positive, and more importantly, the single word is going to be growth. You got to grow, and we're going to grow. We're going to grow our budget. We're going to grow our outreach. We're going to grow the materials and the exhibits, and we're going to get better and better. So if you're looking for a summation, as my grandmother used to say, the Reader's Digest version of tonight, it's all about, for next year, growth. And that's what we want to do here at the museum. So thank you very much. I have to switch gears now, and I'm going to bring Jamie up again, because our business side of the meeting is now adjourned, it's done. What we need to do now is enter another phase, which is the History Hall of Fame. And our executive director will start that off. So Jamie, if you can come forward.
Thanks, Charlie. Right, so on the program side, this is part of the Alfred Z. Solomon Charitable Trust Program Series, and when we do our inductions, that is considered part of one of our monthly programs. So, the Saratoga Springs History Hall of Fame was begun in 2005 to honor the men and women who have made significant and enduring contributions that have enhanced the civic, social, cultural, religious, education, or business life in Saratoga Springs. Right now, there are 28 members in the Hall of Fame. Minnie Bolster, these are in alphabetical order. Minnie Bolster, George Bolster, Edgar Truman Brackett, Evelyn Barrett Britton, Alexander Bryan, Walter Prentice Butler, Richard Canfield, John Clark, Jean Corsall, Joe Dalton, Charles Ferdinand Dowd, Tommy Luther, John Morrissey, Solomon Northup, Dave Patterson, Gideon Putnam, Dee Sarno, Lucy Skidmore Scribner, Lena Spencer, Frank Sullivan, B. Sweeney, Sonia Taub, Spencer Trask, Mike Veach, Charles Waite, Ellen Hardin Walworth, Reuben Hyde Walworth, and William Collins Whitney. So tonight we're here to induct the 29th member into the Saratoga Springs History Hall of Fame. And Charlie, would you help me with this?
I'll be glad.
And we are going to unveil the plaque for our friend, Commissioner Skip Scirocco. And if you'll avail me, I'll read to you what it says on the plaque. Anthony Skip Scirocco, civic leader, tinkerer, and musician. Anthony Skip Scirocco was a Saratogian through and through. He was born in 1948, a leap year. Skip grew up on Beekman Street and was your typical West Side kid. He loved Beekman Street and especially growing up in that neighborhood. He attended School 1 and, like many of his classmates, participated in neighborhood events like the Feast of St. Michael. Skip was a talented child and developed lifelong hobbies early. At age 8, he learned to play the accordion, which blossomed into a lifelong love of playing and performing music. As a teenager, he started to work on automobiles, which also became a lifelong passion. Skip was also an athlete, excelling in track and field as well as football. When he was 14, he was riding his bike down Beekman Street when a girl named Corinne noticed him and asked a friend who he was. Their paths kept crossing, they married young, grew up together, soon creating a life and family together. Skip was not a big fan of school. He dropped out before graduation. He nonetheless completed his GED and started his first career as a barber. That was short-lived, and he soon took a job as campus security at Skidmore College. In 1975, he was hired by the city of Saratoga Springs as an animal control officer, a job that he held until 2007. Skip was never off duty. He picked up stray animals, helped people with aggressive dogs, and even once responded to a call about a car full of snakes. Skip hated snakes, but he loved the community of Saratoga Springs, so whether he was actively on duty or not, he was there to help. In 1998, Skip ventured into politics and was elected supervisor representing the city of Saratoga Springs on the County Board of Supervisors. He held seats on or chaired all sorts of committees, and he spearheaded the establishment of the Saratoga County Animal Shelter. Skip was elected Commissioner of Public Works in 2008. Probably his favorite part of the job was caring for this building, the Canfield Casino in Congress Park. In his tenure, Skip oversaw the restoration of many historic features in the park and casino. He was involved in the stabilization of the foundation and the new basement that we have here. He oversaw the replacement of the aging roof, which we really needed, restoration of the dining room plaster, which was falling down, and the repair of the west wall after it had partially collapsed. And he oversaw the emergency repairs of these two chandeliers, which we discovered were about to fall down the day after I was underneath one. In Congress Park, Skip worked with SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office, and the Preservation Foundation on restoration and rehabilitation projects. He supervised the replacement of the brick sidewalk and the front stairs of the casino, the restoration of the Morrissey Fountain after it was twice vandalized. He also had replicas of the dog statues from the front stairs from the original artifacts kept within the museum. Skip worked with the Preservation Foundation to restore the Spirit of Life Fountain and the Katrina Trask Staircase, and also restored the 77th New York Volunteers Civil War Monument after it was vandalized in 2020. Skip Scirocco loved the city of Saratoga Springs. He enjoyed the city's history, its heritage, and its people, longtime Saratogians and new residents alike, all who call it home. He believed in doing good things. Because of his contributions to preserving the history of this city, we're proud to honor him as the 29th member of the Saratoga Springs History Hall of Fame. Thank you very much. And with that, I'd like to call up my colleague.